With more than 100 years of experience between the four of them, covering Minnesota high school athletics, the Minnesota Sun newspaper's sports editors bring you Sun on Sports.
Welcome back to Sun on Sports, joined again by John Sherman, Greg Kleven, and Nick Clark. I'm Mike Shaughnessy. Nick, on Thursday the 24th, we have a big Northwest Suburban Conference game between two of the conference's perennially strong teams, Champlin Park and Blaine. Blaine was, as many people know, was in the Prep Bowl last year. Champlin Park probably could have gotten to the state playoffs had they not had Wayzata in their path to state. How does this game shape up from your standpoint?
It'll be interesting. Early on, when the schedule came out, you look at it and said, well, there it is. That's going to be for the Northwest Suburban Conference Championship. The winner of that game will go on and probably win the conference. Centennial's thrown a little bit of hex in there. They went in week 2, scored 2 touchdowns in the last quarter on Blaine to come out with a win on the road there, which was a big win for Centennial. And we'll see how that plays out with Centennial. But Blaine's still one of the upper echelon teams in the conference. Champlin won both of its first 2 games, beating Coon Rapids and then beating Maple Grove in a miraculous 17-point come from behind fourth quarter win. They got a 35-yard field goal from Jack Elsness to win it with 10 seconds left, and then as it turns out, he ended up making a game-saving tackle on the ensuing kickoff with just a wild finish, and Champlin got out. It was a pretty good sign of resiliency from the Rebels. A year ago, Champlin might have been the second best team in the state of Minnesota. They were the only team to hand Blaine a regular season loss, and of course, Wayzata ended up beating Champlin in the section final, and then Blaine went on and steamrolled through Eden Prairie, Cretin-Derham Hall before meeting up with Wayzata in that Prep Bowl and losing. So it should be good. They get a Thursday night all to their own. I'm not entirely sure why it's played on Thursday, when I think this is a week where almost everybody else plays Friday. So it should be interesting. But it's a road game for Champlin Park. It's a big test. It's only their second game against since Blaine has transitioned into the spread offense. So we'll see how this new defense of theirs, they didn't return a starter off last year, Champlin Park did, can handle the pressure that the athletes from Blaine are going to put on. And Blaine's been scoring. They've been giving up more than they did here, but they've been scoring. So it could be another high-scoring game. Champlin's gotten a couple of those so far this year. It'd be interesting. Real quick, couple other games that are going on. I guess that Friday, Park Center has its homecoming game. It's a 5 o'clock game against Osseo. Park Center is down this year. Osseo seems to be down a little bit. In fact, Park Center hasn't won a conference game in almost 3 full seasons. But Osseo has been down a little bit. They graduated a lot of kids off last year's team. But they've been scoring. They've just been giving up 50 points a game, and you don't win much when you do that. So it might be interesting there. Coon Rapids goes to Andover. Andover is another team that was off to a 2-0 start in the conference, so that could be a big game depending on how Andover did in week 3. And then Centennial at Elk River, Maple Grove at Anoka. Maple Grove at Anoka is an interesting game in that it's probably for one of the 3rd, 4th, 2nd, somewhere in their place finish in the conference. Whoever can win that game, it'll be a big win in terms of how this thing plays out in the end.
John, in the North Suburban, we have the battle for orange and black pride between St. Louis Park and Cooper, the game being played Friday, September 25th at Cooper. Can the winner of this game make a legitimate run at the North Suburban title?
Actually, Mike, I think the North Suburban title is probably all but wrapped up by Totino Grace. Grace defeated Benilde last week or 2 weeks ago in a wild game, 48-44, and I don't see anybody stopping that Grace machine, or Benilde the rest of the season for that matter. They're an awfully good football team. As far as Park and Cooper, they're teams that are shooting for playoff position right now. 2 good quarterbacks in this game. Greg Hines for St. Louis Park has figured in every touchdown that the Orioles have scored this year. They have 9 touchdowns. He's passed for 6 and run for 3. And he's a Division I prospect, one of the few that Park has had in recent years. So I expect a high-scoring game. It was 35-32 in Park's favor last year, and probably more of the same this year.
I was just going to add to it, I think it'll be interesting in that both teams are improved from where they were a year ago, I think. I know St. Louis Park was excited about the group that came back. Cooper was really anticipating a good start. It lost to Benilde in week 1. 21-6 was the final. Really struggled to get the offense going. But we found out in week 2 how good Benilde really is with them going and taking on Totino the way they did. But then Cooper had its way with St. Francis in the second week. Their quarterback, DJ Bear, it's hard to believe he's still only a sophomore. He started as a 9th grader and really had some success as a freshman out there. Had 3 touchdown runs, one of them 91 yards in that win over St. Francis. He is kind of the engine that makes that go. They got a couple other playmakers. Charles Williams is one. The last name probably sounds familiar. It's the basketball player, Rodney Williams Jr. His little brother has been out for the football team this year and has really been turning some heads from the football coaching staff. They're really excited about what he does both as a receiver and as a defensive back in Cooper's defense. So it'll be fun. It's homecoming at Cooper. It's on the turf at Cooper, so those athletes are going to have a chance to get out there and get those wheels turning, and it might be a track meet, for lack of a better way of putting it, to see who's faster.
Greg, in the Classic Suburban, a Richfield team that you're pretty familiar with is playing at South St. Paul. Richfield is seems like they've been a bit of an enigma the first couple of weeks. They won at Simley their first game and then kind of fell flat against Matamidi. What kind of performance would you expect to see from the Spartans on Friday?
Well, getting back to the first 2 games, Matamidi is going to win that conference, and they got some Division I college recruits and stuff. But you're right. I think they got a very good chance to finish 500 or better, and beating South St. Paul will ensure that. Junior running back Deron Jarvis has been they knew he had some potential last year as a sophomore, and he's stepping it up a notch or two. He's been averaging about between 150 175 yards rushing a game. Gives them some speed. And of course they've got their veteran quarterback Corey Fitzgerald back, who's second in the Classic Suburban in passing a year ago. And I look for Richfield to have a big offensive day and take care of the Packers. The Packers just lack numbers. It's a depth situation. They got some hard-nosed athletes there. It's just that they get a couple of injuries to 2 or 3 players that go both ways, and that's like losing 6 or 7 or 8 players. So I look for a big night for Richfield.
Finally, Nick, in the Wright County Conference, Orono is going out to Dassel Cokato. Can you see the Spartans coming back from there with a win?
Yeah, Orono has really had its way in this series the last couple of years. And if there's been a surprise team in Class 4A this year, outside of Benilde St. Margaret's, it might have to be Orono. Coincidence, they're in the same section as Benilde St. Margaret's and Totino Grace. But Orono's been they're ranked 6th in the latest Class 4A state poll. They've won handily their first 2 games. They had a tough test in week 3 going to Glencoe Silver Lake. Nonetheless, the Spartans are a team that returned just 1 starter on either side of the football from a state semifinal team this year, and they've been putting up tons of points, and they've been playing some defense, and they've been a real surprise. Credit to Jeff Weiland, the head coach out there, and the job he's done with just establishing that program, not just at the high school level, but he's really worked hard the last 5-6 years of getting it going to the middle school and getting these kids into the system and getting them excited to play football in Orono. And you can see it's by the time they get to high school, it's paying off because he has some football players out there.
Well, that wraps up this week's Sun on Sports football segment. For John Sherman, Greg Kleven, Nick Clark, and executive producer Greg Huff, I'm Mike Shaughnessy. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next week.
Stay tuned for more Sun on Sports, your insider's guide to Minnesota high school athletics. For the scores and more, tune in daily to mnsun.com/sports. And tune in every Saturday morning to Sun on Sports on AM 950, the voice of Minnesota.